Today we're going to subtract using the standard algorithm, which is just the normal way of doing math. So at this problem we have 101,660 minus 91,680. We start in the ones place. 0 minus 0 is 0. 6 minus 8, we can't do that, so we have to unbundle or we have to borrow. So I'm going to borrow from the 6 and make this a 5. And then the 6 in the tens place becomes a 16. 16 minus 8 is 8. Now we have 5 minus 6, which I cannot do, so I have to unbundle again. The 1 becomes a 0, and the 5 becomes a 15. 15 minus 6 is 9. 0 minus 1, I can't do it, and I can't borrow from the 10,000s place because it's a 0. So I have to borrow from the 100,000s place. This 1 becomes a 0, and this 0 becomes a 10. But that still hasn't solved my problem, so now I'm going to unbundle or borrow from this 10 and make it a 9. And now we have a 10 in the thousands place. 10 minus 1 is 9. 9 minus 9 is 0, and then there's a 0 over in the 100,000s place, which we don't have to write. So my answer is 9,980. Now let's practice with a word problem. When we do a word problem, we're going to underline the important information and circle the question so that we know what numbers we're using and making sure that we're answering the question that was asked. Mark had $25,081 in his bank account on Thursday. On Friday, he added his paycheck to the bank account, and he then had $26,010 in the account. What was the amount of Mark's paycheck? Now, oftentimes we'll use a tape diagram to show our work. So I'm going to draw a box and look at this problem. I have two parts in this problem. What he put in his account on Thursday and what he put in on Friday. So I'm going to make two parts of my box. I'm going to put in the Thursday amount on the left, $25,081. The total amount that he had in his bank account goes at the bottom because that's those 2 days put together, $26,010. Now the right side of the box is what we don't know. That's Friday. So we've learned to put a variable into our equation. If it's an unknown number, I'll put an n. Now I can set up my equation. I can see the whole is 26,010, and the part I know is 25,081. Because I'm trying to find a missing part, I know I should subtract. I can't do 0 minus 1, so I have to unbundle to make the 10 place a 10. 10 minus 1 is 9. I can't do 0 minus 8. And I can't borrow from the hundreds place either because that's a 0. So I will borrow from the thousands place and make that a 5. Make the hundreds place a 10. But that didn't fix my problem. So I'm going to make the 10 a 9. And then the 0 in the tens place a 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. 9 minus 0 is 9. 5 minus 5 is 0, but I don't have to write it. And 0 minus 2 is 2 minus 2 is 0, so I don't have to write it. So I now know Friday's paycheck was $929. If I go back, the question that I circled was, what was the amount of Mark's paycheck? I'm going to restate that question to write my sentence. Mark's paycheck was $929. It's often helpful if we check our answer. So if I do a check, I'm going to start and go backwards and do the opposite. So I'm going to start with my answer, 929, then put the middle number, and I'm doing the opposite. So if before I was subtracting, now I'm going to add. 9 plus 1 is 10. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 8 is 11. 1 plus 9 is 10. 1 plus 5 is 6. And 2 drops down. My goal is for my bottom number in my check to match the top number in my original equation, and they do. So I'm going to put a little check mark. If I go back to the problems, I used 25,881. I added, I was looking for the missing part on Friday. I used 26,010 as my whole, and I answered the question in the circle.